Hello everyone, I'm K Swope. The Office, classic TV sitcom, is getting, for the first time ever, although we've been talking about it forever, a spin-off called The Paper. So ladies and gentlemen, trailer just dropped today. We are going to take a look at it. I did see it already, but I will give a few thoughts as we go through it, and we're going to dive into the comments on YouTube, see what people think about it, and I'll, of course, give some commentary, give my 2 cents as well as we go into things. So, without further ado, let's waste no more time, and let's jump right into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the official trailer from the Peacock YouTube channel. It's the one we're going to watch, and it is the one where we're going to pull comments from in this video. So, without further ado, let's watch together. Several years ago, a documentary crew filmed the story of Dunder Mifflin. Now, they found a new subject.
Innovate sells products made out of paper, toilet tissue, toilet seat protectors, and local newspapers.
Toledo Truth Teller.
And that is in order of quality.
Okay, fascinating.
Here is one of my articles I'm particularly proud of. I'm scrolling, and I'm learning a lot.
The crew that brought you The Office.
While you're waiting like a factory line.
My name is Ned Sampson.
I think that's the guy from Star Wars, the ones we don't talk about.
How do you think it compares to any other
And he has a
paper?
typewriter for some reason.
It sucks, but we are going to make it better. I hope it's not too disruptive to have me come in and sort of shake everything up.
Oh, no, don't be so self-defecating.
Welcome,
that's kind of funny. I gotta give a little credit to that. That joke was kind of funny.
As reporters for the Toledo Truth Teller. How many of you have actually written for a paper before?
And this is probably going to be the second best show I know that takes place in Toledo.
Not quite the same thing.
I've tweeted.
You've tweeted?
I'm in a group text.
This is terrific.
Let's show them how it's done.
7
Comes a new
highly
comedy.
motivated, tenacious Buckeyes are out there hunting for news. You'd be a fool to bet against that.
Of underdogs. With major issues. It's Oscar,
I'm not
baby.
agreeing to any of
yeah,
this.
there he is. The
I will make
Paper.
this unusable. Use that.
New series, September 4th, only on Peacock. Okay, so that was the trailer, ladies and gentlemen. I'll give my general thoughts on it. For one, I don't think modern comedy has been very good. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I mean, any show that started before 2010, that could still be good. I think anything from 2010 to now is just aggressively mid, to be quite honest with you. So moral of the story is this. I mean, The Office was great. The Office is the gold standard of comedy shows, if you ask me. I think it's not my favorite show in the world, but I do love it and I appreciate it, and I can see why there's so many Office fanatics out there. But yeah, this show, I saw the trailer, so that's earlier today. I watched it and I'm like, you know, this looks just as good as all the other slop being put out today. And by that, I mean not very good. It looks unoriginal. It looks boring. It looks like they're trying to ride the hype train of The Office in the most direct way possible. So personally, I'm not looking forward to this series. I'm probably going to completely skip it unless I hear from people and, you know, other opinions and sources that I actually care about that it's actually really, really good. Then I might give it a try. But yeah, this one's going to be a skip for me, to be quite honest, just based on this trailer, based on what I know about it. So again, not looking forward to it. It looks very, very mid. But that being said, I want to see what you guys think. Some of you viewers right there. So I'm going to take to the comment section and we are going to have some fun here. So here's a guy. Deadpool Negative says, somehow Oscar returned. That's funny. That's funny. I got to give credit where credit is due there. Here's a guy. SQB6056 says, honestly, as long as they don't try to be like The Office and be their own thing, this might actually be solid. I agree with that, actually. I quite agree with that. That's kind of my problem that I brought up before, is that they really just... Every show, I feel like, tries to be The Office nowadays because The Office was so great. Like, you had The Office. I never watched Superstore, but I've heard a lot about it. I tried getting into Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I couldn't get into that one either. It's like, I don't dislike that formula. I just think most executions are just bad. And so I'm not a fan of that. Okay, here's an interesting take. This guy named Gene Harold Mageddon, I think is how it is. And then his numbers are 8928. He says, just remember, season 1 of The Office isn't that great. I watched this with open mind. So, I get the point he's trying to make, but also that statement's kind of contradictory to the last statement. We want it to be its own thing. We want it to not be following the footsteps of The Office so closely. So I feel like this guy's mindset is that it's going to be like The Office, meaning that the first season might not be good, which he's kind of got a point, but on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but you just shouldn't expect the same patterns to repeat themselves in every single show, right? You want the shows to start out good, because if season 1 is not good, the odds of them getting a season 2 are slim. And The Office got really, really lucky that it picked up in its second and third seasons, and that it got most of its viewership off there and just coasted the rest of its show run based on how good seasons 2 and 3 were, to be quite honest. So, I mean, he's got a point, but that's also a rarity. That does not happen all the time. So here's a common theme I'm seeing a lot of these comments too, and this one guy says a tutorial slave. He says, a comedy without jokes, bold strategy. So the thing about that, I will say, because people are saying the trailer, they showed like no jokes, you know, and I kind of agree, but I also think that that's kind of my problem with a lot of these shows, is that The Office was able to pull off jokes effortlessly because its characters were so interesting and dynamic, right? So you had the classic, you know, Jim playing pranks on Dwight all the time, since Dwight's always so uptight, and it always made it really, really funny. So those were intentional jokes, but then you just had characters being themselves, and that kind of sort of was the joke. The problem is, you have to establish these characters. We have to already like and know and enjoy them in order for you to appreciate that. Like, for example, the show Friends, okay? Now, I don't like Friends. However, I see why other people do like Friends, because I think the reason people like Friends so much is because you're following a friend group, okay? And the friend group are not necessarily doing anything specifically funny. They find themselves in weird situations sometimes, but it's the fact that you're like, oh, that's so Chandler, that's so Phoebe, that's so Jennifer Aniston's character, who I can't remember, Rachel, it's Rachel, yeah. And so, like, I understand why they like it, I just personally don't. I can think, though, of a show that I think has a similar dynamic, which is Psych, where I do appreciate that. I think that is good. They are cracking jokes a mile a minute in Psych, like blink and you miss, because they're coming all over the place. But Psych, I found the charm in Psych the same way I think people find the charm in Friends, which is from the characters, and like, oh, that character would totally do that, or you expect this character to act a certain way in certain situations and stuff. The problem is, you can't do that in new shows when you do not establish the characters and give us a reason to like said characters. You gotta have good plots. So I feel like when you're starting a comedy off, you have to try harder. That's kind of my personal opinion. You gotta try a lot harder to make the first season really, really good. I think the first season is very, very important. Even though shows like Parks and Rec and The Office did not necessarily have great first seasons, I think that there was enough potential there, and there was enough laying the groundwork for the characters that it really helped set things up. You had some really good writing, really good plots, seasons 2 and 3 following season 1. That helped tremendously, and then they were able to build up that, oh, this is how this character would be in this, and that. And I think that really helped carry it on. Now, it limped to the end, I think, The Office, but still, I mean, it's still, you know, it coasted along, it did well enough, and I think that's the important thing. Here's one I appreciate. It looks like it's Stefan W9M says, remember that show The Office where the cast didn't look like a bunch of actors? Good times. I think he's got a pretty good point, because I do think, yeah, if I'm comparing The Office cast to this cast looks like they're there to recapture The Office and be sort of like actors, I guess, too. And I'm not quite seeing that same level of genuineness, I guess. I don't know if that's a word, but it's not as genuine, I think, what I'm seeing here. Because like I said, they do look like actors. I think this guy's got a really good point. So, not that I think that's going to make or break the show, but it is something that makes it look less charming. I'll put it like that. And this guy named Zach Bob says, I love when they cut the music so I know when to laugh. That's funny. That's very true. Yeah. Not much else to say there, but he's got a good point. All right, this guy, whose name I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of, but you'll see it on screen. He says, this feels very British. The Thai guy at the start sounded British and Ned, whatever that means. And the humor feels British too. I think he's got a good point, because to be honest, as soon as it started, first time I saw it, I got original British Office vibes from it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing for an American audience. I only watched the first episode of The British Office just to kind of get a feel for it, and it was crazy how similar it was to the first episode of The Office, which is very, very fascinating. But either way, yeah, so that kind of feels weird. It almost feels more to me like a spin-off of The British Office that takes place in the United States, just from the vibes. So I don't know, kind of weird. So this guy, Lucas Jones 3338, says, at 118, it says, comes a new comedy. And that's when I knew those previous scenes were supposed to be funny. I think the guy's got a good point, because, I mean, I don't know if the trailer was supposed to be funny or not, but I know I didn't find it funny. So I'm trying to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I'm intentionally going after the bad comments. Not because I'm not looking forward to this myself, but just because, I don't know. I just think that comedy needs a lot of criticism, or what they're trying to pass off as comedy needs a lot of criticism nowadays. So I'm sort of picking and choosing what I'm highlighting here and what my personal opinions are based on what I think comedy needs to do. I think comedy needs to push the envelope again. I think everyone makes fun of the same things all the time, and it's boring. And it's because it's safe, because there's, certain side of things politically where if you do or say certain things to certain people, they get really mad at you. And so they're trying to be safe with it, and comedy should not be safe. And that's kind of what I don't like. And this feels too safe. That's my problem. So that's why I'm not laughing. It feels safe. It feels inoffensive. I think all great comedy should be offensive in some way, shape, or form. I think if somebody is not getting offended, it could be funnier. I'll put it like that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end things there. That's my general thoughts on the Paper trailer that we saw. Not looking forward to it personally, but hey, what do you think of the Paper? Let me know in the comments below. Very curious. I want to hear. I know I made some bold claims and statements, my opinions on comedy and the state of comedy right now on TV. So if you agree or you don't agree, let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to hear you out. I try to, remain open-minded, at least hearing people out, even if I disagree with them. So whatever you think, I'm still open to hearing. Just keep it nice, okay? If you want me to listen, keep it nice. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys all for watching. For more videos like this, more reviews, more commentary, hit that subscribe button. Doing that kind of stuff all the time. But in the meantime, I'm K Swope, and I will see you in the next one.